In the poor Cairo suburb of Khusus, 10-year-old Mina likes to escape from his tiny apartment onto the rooftops. There he can see the crosses on top of the local church, where policemen endure the intense Egyptian heat next to the entrance. It's unlikely that Mina realizes his father, Mirza Katia, a humble government employee, was killed on this very roof. A sniper's bullet caught him in the chest. On that April night of 2013, Mina's father was one of 6 Christians who died in sectarian violence.
We were sitting here all together when Dad went up to the roof to check on the church. He wanted to know what was going on there and if he had to go and defend it. He went up there twice. The third time he left, he didn't come back. He was brought back and laid down here.
Here on my arm, I have an image of Jesus Christ. I like it a lot. I also have one of Pope Shenouda and the Madonna. Every single tattoo is really important to me.
The eldest son, Krolos, wears short-sleeved shirts to show off his tattoos. Openly displaying your affiliation to the Christian minority in an Islamic country can be seen as an act of defiance, especially now, when such tattoos might easily mark someone as a potential victim.
2005.
An old Fiat weaves its way through Cairo's ancient streets early in the morning. Yunus Kamal, a priest at the Archangel Michael Church, is late for the first service. It starts at 6 in the morning to enable believers to pray before they go to work. Sunday is not a day of rest in Egypt.
People who come to the church today are our regular congregation. They come here every Sunday to pray. Recently, it has become very difficult to avoid discussions about politics and violence between Christians and Muslims. But I really beg our churchgoers not to turn the house of God into a place of arguments. In regards to the religious conflicts, of course, we all worry about it. Not just the Copts, but the whole country does. After the revolution and the overthrow of Mubarak, the church has been attacked about 10 times. But I will still keep saying that the Muslims are our brothers.
The Cairo suburb of Khusus is similar to many of the capital's districts. They all have a poor area of high-rise buildings where Copts and Muslims live together. This neighborhood was quite peaceful until April 5th, 2013, when 2 Coptic teenagers painted a swastika on the wall of an Islamic school. The Muslims were offended, not by the Nazi symbol, but that it was emblazoned with a Christian cross. An angry mob started to gather near the church.
At the time, someone from the mosque behind the church came and told us there was some sort of fight. He suggested that we all stay together. All the Christians gathered around the church to defend it. In about 15 to 20 minutes, I saw some cars. People got out and started shooting all over the place. There are still bullet holes outside on the church walls. All we saw were people falling down, beaten by other people. There were a lot of injured. Somebody also threw a tear gas grenade.
During the conflict, almost all of the Christian men of Khusus went to protect the church. They barricaded the surrounding streets and boarded up all of the church's windows and doors.
If there had been no response to the shooting, they would have broken into the church. 6 people were killed. They were shot in the head or the heart. It means they were professionals. Let's be honest, there are plenty of weapons in this country. They had silenced firearms, which hardly make a sound, but they're still lethal.
Marcus Kamel was shot during the attack. His wife prefers to live with her relatives now because she's afraid to return to her apartment in Khusus.
I wanted to stop him, but he said, "The house of God is on fire and I have to go and defend it." We were at home and could smell the tear gas because of the bombs the police were throwing there. Our house is quite far from the church, but we could still smell it. That is why my husband closed all the doors and windows to protect us from the smoke. I tried to stop him, but he said that the church was on fire. After this, he left. I got a call later. They told me he had been shot.
The local Copts are certain that the massacre was not started by their Muslim neighbors, but by foreign extremists. 2.5 years since the fall of Mubarak's regime, Islamic radicals of all backgrounds have been growing in strength.
The reason for the hate is because of sheikhs like Abu Islam stirring things up. He said from the start that he would like not just 4 or 7 Copts dead in the Khusus attack, but 70 or 700 or even 7,000. They say it's wrong to scorn the Islamic religion, but is it okay to despise us?
What happened in Khusus was one of the Christian-Muslim conflicts in Egypt that has been going on for the past 30 years. Christians are always the first ones to attack. It is really difficult to make ordinary people calm down and control themselves.
Ahmad Mahmoud Abdullah, or Abu Islam, is one of the most controversial figures in Egyptian public life. He calls himself a humble soldier in the media war against Coptic Christianity. Abu Islam denounces Coptic plots on his internet channel, Uma.
هم بيربوا الكلاب والقطط عندهم ليه؟ كزوج بديل للزوج. بديل للزوج. كلب وبيدربوه على فكرة يمارس الزوج. أقسم بالله لا مش بتكلم مش بكذب أنا لا أكذب مش هخصم ولا حاجة. بيدربوا الكلاب يشتروا الكلب كده ويدربوه على إنه يبقى راجل. ليها. الله أكبر الله.
Ten years ago, about 5% of the Egyptian population supported my viewpoint. Today, it is at least 75% because the church has brought discredit upon itself with its actions. They showed their worst side. They said that Christians and Muslims are neighbors, but insulted Allah, drew crosses everywhere, annexed territory, and then built churches on it. People got angry.
Abu Islam rose to notoriety after destroying a copy of the Bible in front of the American embassy in Cairo, 1 year after the 9/11 attacks. He has been taken to court, but until recently, Abu Islam's extremist acts have passed by without legal consequences. About 10% of Egypt's 80 million population are Coptic Christians, making them the biggest denomination in the Middle East. The Coptic community has always been a difficult issue with national politics. This Christian minority is defined by its higher level of education, income, and unity. However, for generations, Copts have had to put up with the unspoken rule that bars them from holding senior positions in the government, army, or security services. After the Winter Revolution of 2011, many Coptic Christians hoped that religious segregation would disappear, along with the regime.
I was the first woman in the history of Egypt to be elected successfully. The percentage of Copts in the Muslim Brotherhood parliament now is also very small, less than 0.5%. There's not a single Coptic representative in the government of the Muslim Brotherhood.
However, Margaret's victory didn't last for long. When Mubarak's place was taken by President Morsi, with the parliament practically dominated by Islamic parties, there was no place for her.
There's no doubt that Copts in Egypt are living in fear, because every day we hear some extremist announcements which are alien to our country. We expected that the Copts, just like all Egyptians here, would gain their rights or at least get freedom and social justice. But now they are terrified even more because there are more Islamic fatwas. They want to make us pay the jizya Islamic tax. They want to put a tax on Christianity, make us wear the hijab, and reduce the minimum age of marriage. The final thing they want to legitimize is the matter of keeping kidnapped Christian women so they don't have to return them to their parents.
Yaman Hanna prays every day for her 16-year-old daughter's life and health. She hasn't seen Anna for almost a year.
She was 16 years old. I have no idea why she left. I was at work. She was at home with her brother. She told him she was going out with her Muslim girlfriend to buy sunglasses and would be back home soon. She went away and didn't come back. I don't know anything about that friend of hers, but I'm sure she took her somewhere.
Yaman Hanna is convinced her daughter didn't run away, but was kidnapped. She is certain that the police barely even tried to find her daughter.
I went to the police and declared her missing. They call me periodically asking whether or not I've solved the problem. I always answer, is it me who has to solve it? You, maybe? They also told me I have to cooperate with them. How come they didn't question that Muslim girl?
We've documented about 500 cases of girls disappearing after the revolution. The case of 14-year-old Sarah Ishaq Abdul Malik is one of the most famous. I don't remember the name of the man who was accused in the kidnapping. He was the owner of a bookstore. She went out and didn't come back. Her father called the hospitals and declared her missing. According to witnesses, the last place she was seen was that exact bookstore. The owner was accused and there was a warrant to arrest him, but it wasn't carried out.
Abraham Lewis heads the Coptic civic organization that investigates cases of Christian girls who've disappeared. Most of the time, the girls do run away with their Muslim fiancés, but kidnappings do occur. The police try not to get involved, especially if there's information that the missing girl had already converted to Islam.
Wearing a hijab is their choice. They talk about it frankly on the internet. These are not rare cases. There are hundreds and thousands of them. It is evident that the church has some social and cultural problems, provoking the Christian girls to convert to Islam. Nobody's being kidnapped.
The people who died in the Husus attack, including Merzek Atiya and Marcus Kamel, were buried 2 days after the tragedy. The funeral began in the center of Cairo, next to St. Mark's Coptic Orthodox Cathedral. Like many other large gatherings in the past 2 years, the several thousand-strong funeral procession erupted into a massive protest. resulting in confrontations. The funeral led to further violence, and 2 more people died. The priest, Yunus Kamal, asks everyone in the church to pray for peace between Muslims and Copts. He reminds his congregation that God is patient and kind. That is why all Christians have to be patient and to endure. Tanta Jazeera is a small village 2 hours' drive from Cairo. It typifies the Egyptian provinces. Unemployment and poverty are rife. Coptic Christians make up 1/5 of the local population. In their small church, they used to thank God that the sectarian clashes were happening far from their quiet village. That was until the day a Muslim man got into a fight on the street with a Copt.
What happened that day is nothing out of the ordinary between neighbors. There was a small fight because of a dog that was bothering them. One of them asked them to get rid of the dog. The other refused. One thing led to another and they fought. It's nothing special.
Friends and relatives of the Copt and the Muslims soon began to gather where the fight had taken place. A domestic conflict can easily escalate into widespread violence in Egypt.
Someone was hit. The others responded. There were casualties on both sides. As always happens between farmers, they gather to clear up the situation and understand who was right or wrong. They solve it peacefully at the end of the day. In our village, no one wants to make things complicated and aggravate the problem. We are not used to making something out of nothing or blowing things out of proportion.
In Tanta Jazeera, local elders and the priest managed to settle the conflict. However, violence could not be avoided in autumn of 2011 in the southern city of Aswan. Muslims attacked a Christian church and tried to burn it down. They said it had been built without permission. 2 days later, 10,000 outraged Copts went out to protest in the center of Cairo, right in front of the Maspero State Television building. They clamored against Aswan's local governor and called for an independent inquiry into the church attack.
When this happened in Maspero, I wasn't far away from the Egyptian television broadcasting center. I worked there at Video Cairo. Suddenly we could hear gunfire. I saw military trucks going back and forth at great speed around Maspero. People were forced either to the side of the road or towards the Nile. I saw a lot of bodies. It was awful. People whose arms and legs had been ripped off. Other people tried to cover the bodies somehow. My colleagues and I tried to escape to the television's office building, but they attacked us. We tried to show our documents. I was one of the first there. The officer figured out from my name that I was a Christian. He started yelling at me and hit me on the head.
20 lives were tragically lost in the Maspero incident, while about another 200 people were injured.
This was attack from the regime, the interior power against the Christian, against the cathedral, using the bullets, using tear gas bombs. It's not about, we're not talking about the citizens, normal citizens. It's about the armed forces, for the interior ministry. Who is responsible for this? For sure, Morsi, which we call the prison.
Bishoy is a member of the Maspero movement. It was formed by young Copts after the tragedy. Their goal is to achieve Christian rights through non-violent means.
On the Mubarak's regime, about 104 Christians have been killed in 30 years, not in 2 years. and more than 811 Christians have been injured. But after the revolution, 104 families have been forced to immigrate.
After Mubarak, things got worse for the Copts. Neither the pro-Islamic government nor parliament focused on protecting religious minorities. For fundamentalists, Coptic Christians are an ideal scapegoat as the enemy within.
Really? Christians are deprived of rights? I would love to have the same rights Christians have in Egypt. That was exactly the thing I asked Abdul Ali Musa, the former interior minister. I still want this, because Christians here have many more rights than Muslims do.
While recording this interview, Abu Islam received some unfortunate news. A trial court had sentenced him to 11 years for extremism. Traveling from the center of Egypt's capital to the Zabaleen district is like traveling back in time. The word Zabaleen means rubbish people. Here, they're all Christians. No one can tell exactly how many people live in this area that was founded in the middle of the 20th century. It varies from hundreds of thousands to 500,000. Refuse is their life. They collect it from all around Cairo, bring it back here, and pick through it by hand.
The process has 5 stages. The first one is on the ground. They have to separate the garbage first. The second starts after they wash it. After washing, we have to use this machine to heat it up. It requires a really high temperature. It heats the refuse. This is the third stage of the whole procedure. So first you have to wash it and then to heat it. After all that, it goes to the factory to be recycled.
This is the view of the Cairo citadel from the Zabaleen leader's house. He doesn't pick up rubbish from the streets anymore, but he knows all the details of the trade perfectly.
A garbage collector's working day goes something like this. He starts work at 4 a.m. He knows which part in which area he has to cover. With his children, he gathers garbage until 9 or 10 in the morning. Then he returns home with all of it. His children and wife help him to separate out all the material. Once a week, people come to his place to buy the garbage. This is how he earns a living for his family.
Shahata even took part in municipal elections, but failed to become a deputy. What he regrets most is that the revolution supported by the Zabaleen has done nothing for his people. In fact, their situation has become worse. They've slowly been hounded out of business by big companies who are now collecting the garbage. Radical Islamic preachers even want to kick them out of the area.
The Bible and Jesus teach us that religion and God means loving thy fellow man. Christians do not want power or senior positions. We don't want to rule Egypt. All we want is to preserve our country where we were born and raised, where we drank the Nile's water, and where our forefathers died defending Egypt. Christians died on Tahrir Square during the revolution, just like many others. We want to live, raise our children in safety, and we want our church to be safe too. We have a right to ask for it because we have the same rights as Muslims in this country.
The Archangel Michael's church was built not long ago. Its priest insists that a Coptic church already existed on this exact spot at the beginning of the 3rd century. At that time, Christians suffered persecution from the Romans. Even their own calendar starts from 284 AD, the so-called Era of Martyrs.
We are in a state of psychological war right now. It is tough, of course. They try to intimidate and terrorize Christians. They kidnap young girls, burn down Christian shops and pharmacies. But the situation is different from the one under the Roman Empire. In that period of time, they tried to kill all the Christians. As for us, and speaking as a Coptic church priest, we are not calling for emigration. If somebody wants to leave, let them go. But I want everyone to know that we will die, but we will never leave our country.